We may have an explosion video later.
That's not funny.
As much as we can. Can't see what we're doing here.
Oh, look at there.
It's magic.
And we don't even have to run the generator.
It's magic.
Magic.
Coming from the battery. Hey everyone, this is Martin and I am down at the cabin site. Shelly is down digging with the backhoe today, way down the hill there, if you can see that. I need to start by saying excuse the mess around here. I mean, we've got a huge mess. We've been working down here every single day trying to get this cabin livable, and we're down to 3 days left and we got to be moved in here, and so we're running out of time. But a lot of people have asked about the solar generator system that we put in down here. It's not really a solar generator, I guess it's just a bunch of equipment for converting solar power to electrical energy for us. And it starts with the panels, and we've got 4. We've only actually got 3 of them hooked up at the moment, and I'll explain why in a couple of minutes here. But so there's 3 panels here. These are 325 watt panels, and we've got them wired up in series, so they're putting out about 1,000 watts of energy to the controller. Okay, so now I'm in the control room where I've got the batteries, the charge controller, and the inverter charger set up. And so there's basically 4 pieces of equipment to this. And I guess the next disclaimer that I want to put out is that like a lot of you that are struggling to try to figure out exactly how all of this works, a month ago that's where I was at too, and I had no clue, just really had no clue. My son-in-law Mike came in and spent the week working here with my daughter, and while they were here is when we set all this up, and he understands this stuff really, really well. He's an electrical engineer, so that helps a lot. But there's 4 basic components here. There's the solar panels outside, there's the controller, the charge controller inside that converts the solar energy to something that can feed into the batteries, and then there's the inverter charger, and then of course the batteries. So it's all right here. Let's see, the charge controller for the solar panels is right there, the inverter charger is right here, and then the batteries we've got down here. And we're going to start with the batteries. And what I've got here is there's a total of 8 batteries, and they're wired up in 2 sets. There's this set of 4 over here is 1 string. This set of 4 over here is a 2nd string. And what they do is they're wired up in a way that creates a 48 volt system. So these are each 12 volt batteries, and if you look down here you will see this is the first battery in the string, and it's wired, there's a jumper here wired from the positive to the negative of the next battery. Over here we go positive of this battery to the negative of the 3rd battery, and then from here we go the positive of the 3rd battery to the negative of the 4th battery. So that generates, by wiring them in series that way, that creates 12, 24, 36, 48 volts altogether. So this is a 48 volt string. These 4 batteries over here are set up exactly the same way. There's no difference on them. They go from positive to negative, positive to negative, positive to negative to create a 48 volt system right here. And then what's done to merge these 2 together into a larger 48 volt system is that there is a positive and a negative wire that will connect these two strings together, and those are right here, and they are connected in parallel. So once you get this 48 and that 48, by connecting the positive to the positive of the 2 strings and the negative to the negative of the 2 strings, and these are the starting, what it will do is it will create I guess for lack of a better term, a double 48 volt system, or it will double the capacity, the storage capacity of your 48 volt system. Now, if one of these batteries went bad, okay, it would kind of wipe out the effectiveness of the whole string. So by having two banks of 48 volts, if one battery goes bad on this string, this one is still functioning, so you don't lose your entire capacity by dropping one battery. Now, when we went and was looking at buying all of this, the store had recommended, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, they were larger batteries, but they recommended buying 8 6-volt batteries to give us a total of 48 volts, wiring all of it in series. Mike suggested that rather than doing that, go to the 2 banks of 12-volt batteries, because if all of these were 6-volt batteries wired in series to give us that 48, by losing one battery, you end up losing the entire system, the effectiveness of the entire system. So your entire system is down until you replace that one battery. So we opted to go with the 12-volt, 4 batteries per string to give us a 48-volt system, and wire the 2 in parallel, so that we've just basically doubled our capacity and created a safety net if one of the batteries does happen to go down. So that's the basics on wiring the batteries up. We can go into more detail in another video, I suppose, if you put a comment down below if you don't understand it. But that's the basics, and that's how the batteries are stored, or the energy is stored in the batteries. Now, coming from the solar panels, we go to this charge controller, and what it does is it gives you a readout of the status of the incoming power, which right now we don't have a lot coming in, just simply there's like 84.4 coming in out of the 1,000 potential that's there. But it's a very overcast day. There's light out there, but there's not direct sunlight on them. So this is the piece of equipment that turns what's coming from the solar panels into DC voltage, and it's being fed right here down to the batteries to charge the batteries up. Now, one of the nice things about this is that, and it comes more from the charge controller over here, is that if we are producing more energy from the solar panels, it will go to charging, but it will also go directly into feeding the power output. So if we're running air conditioner, lights, refrigerators, whatever, it will feed directly to that. And if it's producing more energy than what we're consuming and what the battery needs, it will kind of bypass the batteries, and it will feed directly to us through the inverter. The inverter is right here, and this is, it's a SkyMax. It is a 48 volt 6,000 watt converter or inverter generator. And what the difference is between a regular inverter and an inverter, not a generator, an inverter charger. See, my ignorance on this is showing. But what, or at least my lack of long-term experience is showing. So it's an inverter charger, and you can buy these as either an inverter only, which just simply turns DC power from the batteries into AC power that you can use in your house. That's what an inverter does, and it also converts the energy coming from the solar panels over to AC voltage as well. But we wanted to have the ability to charge the batteries down here with a generator if we had extended period of cloudiness and where we weren't getting enough sun. And so this is an inverter charger, and what that means is it can be wired to grid power, or it can be wired just simply to a generator. And so if your batteries get depleted, you can go ahead and fire up your generator, or it will know, it's smart enough to know to kick over and pull power from the grid to charge your batteries enough to get the batteries amped back up, and then it disconnects. So it does have a lot of features that make it sort of autonomous out here. And what we've done is we have several times we have gone ahead, and we had about 5 days of after we installed all this of just rain and clouds, and so we weren't getting any production out of the solar panels at all during that time. And what we ended up with doing was about every other day we would hook a generator up to this, and it's simply just a plug into the generator kind of a connection, and it would fill the batteries back up again so we could run a couple more days with zero output from the solar panels. Now there is a cutoff switch over here on the battery system. Before it feeds into the inverter, there's a cutoff switch here. There's also a fuse on this side that will, if there's a problem, it will blow the fuse, and that's like a 150 amp fuse. And that's kind of basically it. There's a remote control switch that goes with that. That's, I mean, if you want to be able to switch it on and off from a little bit of a ways away, you can do that. There is one other feature on the batteries on the charge controller up here. On this one, this blue wire that comes down and is stuck to the side of the battery there is a sensor for heat. So if your battery starts getting real hot, it will shut them down. And there's a lot of safety features in here. Right now, this yellow wire, we've got just simply wired as a temporary measure over to a power strip. Then we've got a couple of things plugged into, some lights, and we've got a cord running to the cabin that's running a refrigerator, some lights in there, and an air conditioner if we want to. And that's what that's all about. Normally, up in here is where this would be wired in. That's actually designed to be wired to like your breaker panel in your house, so that it's feeding power directly to a breaker panel. We just have it set up to the little power strip, and that's really about it. These are lead acid batteries, so the room does need to be vented, and the room is very well vented. We've got a lot of really good airflow through here, so we don't have any kind of a chance of gas buildup. And then there's also we do need to build a cover over this so things don't accidentally get dropped onto there and arc out. I mean, if we dropped something on here that would create that would close the circuit on some of these terminals, you could have a real problem. So there will be a cover that's going to be built over top of this. Right now we don't spend any time in here or stack anything near here that's going to create a problem, but nevertheless we're going to put a cover over it as well. And I don't know that there's a whole lot else to say other than, you know, we're still trying to figure out exactly how much energy we're using out of this battery bank. And if we want to, we've got the one string here that's 48 volts. We got the second string there that's 48 volts wired in parallel, so it gives us two of them. Still maintains the 48 volts. If we wanted to, we could add more batteries. We would have to add 48 volts at a time, so we would have to add 4 more batteries to get a third string, another 4 to get a fourth string, and each time you'd wire the 4 of them into series to create the 48 volts, and then wire those in addition into parallel here. I guess I should mention one thing. You could, this is the feed going, the positive and the negative feed going up to the inverter charger coming from the battery system. And even though you could hook up, because these are all connected together in parallel with these two cables, you could wire the positive and the negative feeds from the controller or from the inverter charger to one string, and you'd still be getting that. But the trouble is, if I understand this correctly, if we had them wired to this string, even though they're connected to that string, the inverter would pull from this bank and deplete this bank unevenly compared to that bank. So the negative we got set on one bank, the positive is set on the other bank. And if you added more of them, what you'd want to do is, depending on how you wired them in parallel, if you went from this one to that one to this one and then back over to this one, you would have it still set up like this, where you have one, either your negative or your positive on the first bank, and the other one on the last bank. You wouldn't want to put them on the same one or on the second or third one. You'd want to always make sure that one of your lead cables going to the inverter is on one bank, on the first bank, and the other lead cable is on the very last bank. That way it pulls down all of them evenly, and you don't get excessive use on one string versus the whole entire system. So anyway, that's how you would add more there. How you would add more to the solar panels is, right now we're maxed out. We can't put any more in there because of the way the charge controller treats the incoming power. And if we wanted to hook up more panels, we could hook up more panels, and they have a total output of I think 11 amps each, and we can go up to 150 here, so we could add up to probably 15 or so panels out there. But you would have to connect them with a connection box, which kind of treats each set of 3 panels kind of on its own. It's kind of like wiring them in parallel, but then each one of them is fused and worked through its own connection, so that it can feed in here without overloading the inverter or the charge controller up there. Well, I hope I confused you as much as I've been confused about this stuff. It's actually not as complicated as what it sounds, and there are other elements in here. Size of wire is important, grounding the whole system is important. All of that has been done here, and I didn't go into some of that stuff because this is already turning into a longer video than I planned. But the system is working remarkably well. I'm surprised really actually at how well it does work. And the one thing I guess I probably should show is this readout on the inverter charger is showing, I don't know if you can see this, or it's showing 47.8 on the battery. And so this is a 48 volt system, so right now we're standing at 47.8 volts of capacity in the batteries, and they will function down to about, I guess, 11 volts each on each of the batteries, giving us, so when you multiply it times 4, when this reaches about 44, this system will cut out because of low voltage in the battery. So it needs to be no lower than 44, and from what I understand, each battery is capable of holding, even though they're 12 volt batteries, they're capable of holding roughly 14 volts each as a maximum amount. So when you combine that times 4 batteries, you get somewhere in the neighborhood of 58 or so volts there. And so when you hot charge this thing with a generator, it has the potential of going up to about 58 there, and without being a problem. And this controller does turn everything off when the batteries are full, so it won't just continue to charge them. There's a lot of other features on here. This is showing the wattage being used right now, and so right now there's lights, refrigerator, some other odds and ends things in the cabin that's being run, so it's using that amount right now. This is what's in the battery. There's other features in here. This shows the percentage of the capacity that's actually being utilized, and it's just a gauge that shows from 0 to 25%, from 25 to 50%, from 50% to 75%, and then up to 100%. And right now we're using virtually nothing. So that's just showing the percentage of available power that you can use that is being used right now, and there's almost nothing. There's a little battery indicator showing that it has depleted some. From yesterday when we charged it up, we had the benefit of full sun yesterday for about 5 hours, so we got a lot of good solar input on this, and then we ran the generator for a while to bump it up a little farther, and we've depleted a little bit out of there, but not too much. Anyway, that's a lot, and I apologize for the long video. It's just There's a lot to it, but it's not as complicated as what it feels like it is when you first get started. Put comments down below. I will do my best to answer them. If not, I'll get Mike to try to jump in and answer questions if you have some. We're going to look into more of this later. We're probably going to at some point add panels and add batteries in here to just boost everything up a little higher. And hope this was beneficial, not too confusing. It is coming from with the language of a novice, but that's okay. And hope it was helpful. We'll see you next time.